We're going to talk about Molly McCann versus Luana Carolina. This is a women's flyweight matchup that we have on our hands right here. And listen, man, Molly McCann, she has yet to find her first UFC finish. She has 4 decision wins, 4-4 in the UFC. 3 of her 4 career losses are via decision, and she only has one sole finish loss, and that was to Jillian Robertson. She got choked out by her. Now, Luana Carolina, a.k.a. Dread, as we know, she got a big win in her last fight against Lupi Godinez. Now, that was Lupi Godinez stepping up on short notice. I said the length of the frame, it's going to be able to give her problems, and it did. And she squeaked that one out. It was close, but she got the job done. Molly McCann, in her last fight, AJ, against Ji Young Kim, showed that if she can bully you, if she could walk you down, if she can get in your face, she has more tenacity, she has more grit, and especially fighting in London, she has a little X factor, a little superpower behind her. You know what I mean? That's going to be the difference in this fight. Do you think that Luana Carolina, at this stage of her career, 3-1 in the UFC, wins against Priscilla Cachoeira? That's a big one right there, right? Paulina Botelho and Lupi Godinez. Do you think that is going to be enough strength of schedule, enough experience to combat a fiery, competitive Molly McCann who has 8 fights in the UFC and knows how to win a decision? What do you think?
I don't think so, Derek. I think that pressure is just going to be too much for the Luana Carolina, especially because we're talking in her last fight, she doesn't utilize her range, man. She doesn't utilize that reach. We saw in Lupi Godinez's fight, Lupi was able to push her up against the cage and control her for the most part. Eventually, the tide started turning, the gas tank started wearing out, and that's my big question for Molly McCann. How's that gas tank going to go? Because as much as Luana Carolina can't or doesn't utilize her range, once she gets in that clinch, she has a very strong clinch, so you can't control her as long as she doesn't start eating big bombs, man. Yeah. And that's another big question. Molly McCann has absolute hammers on her. And, as much as they call her meatball, I think it should be meat bombs because she throws bombs in there. And you get caught up, hands down with a clinch on somebody. And next thing you know, punches are coming over the top. It's a rough one, man. So will Carolina be able to hold on or stop the pressure? I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, the tough part to me is it's hard to justify because Molly McCann can get in on these long fighters. She did it to Ji Young Kim, but Luana Carolina has a 7-inch reach advantage, 69 inches to 62 inches. So it makes me a little concerned because I like the Molly McCann spot in London. It makes sense. She has to win, right? But if Carolina can stick at range and pop that jab in her face, it could be a long night, brother. It could be a long night. Excuse me. Let me hit a little cough roll. I got a little mute button myself over here, brother. You know what time it is. Either way, all right, brother, listen. Let's talk about it, my man. Carolina's last finished one was back in 2016. It was a first-round knockout, and she's only been finished once in her career. That was that knee bar loss to Ariane Lipski. Now, the thing that's interesting here is that when it comes down to it, this is just grit and tenacity versus somebody who has been a little gun-shy in her career. And I'm talking the grit and tenacity comes from McCann. Carolina, a little gun-shy. We would like to see her use her range, her length a little bit more, but you don't really see that happening. I don't really see Molly McCann going for too many takedowns in this fight, but I do think it could happen. Might not be the best idea against Luana Carolina. But do we see a finish happening in this fight, or are we dragging this one out to a decision?
No, I think we're seeing a finish, man. I think we're seeing a motivated McCann in her hometown, fighting in front of the roaring crowd. Everybody's back. First fight in London. Yeah. If we see a decision, I'll be very, very shocked.
And when it comes down to frames, right, you have the taller, longer, lankier Luana Carolina versus the more stout tank Molly McCann. Strength-wise, who do you think wins the strength battle in this fight?
Oh, Molly McCann, 100%, man, 100%. Although Carolina does have a very strong clinch game, and she can utilize, her God-given frame in that clinch, where I think that's her one aspect where she'll do better.
Okay, so listen, man, it's tough because I'm not going to lie to you. I do, in a way, want to pick Carolina in this fight to win, stick at range. It's just so hard, 7 inches of reach. But then again, like I said, we've seen Molly McCann do this to multiple fighters. She has 2 losses in her last 3, one to Laura Procopio and one to Syla Santos, who's about to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the title. There's that. But listen, man, I'll rock with Molly McCann on this one, getting the hometown win. If she loses, which could totally happen in this fight, AJ, she is 4-4 in the UFC, my man. London will probably go crazy once again. Not as crazy as for Patty the Batty, but they will go crazy. I'll rock with the decision here, man. I don't see a finish happening, so I'm rolling with the under because it's 2.5 rounds for the over and under on this one. So you got Molly McCann. What round are you thinking?
Oh yeah, Molly McCann. I'm rocking with the under as well, man. I think it's gonna happen late round 1, early round 2. I'm going
Sheesh.
KO, TKO. I think the meatball is gonna come in with some heat, jazz up that crowd, and we'll see if Patty shows up and follows.
All right, brother. We will see what happens. And